Good morning and welcome back to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at the MarketSite, we have Edward Oliver. He's the Vice President of Financial Sales over at Dataminr. We're going to focus on 3 fast facts on alternative data adoption. Now, Dataminr and WBR Insights, they survey traders, portfolio managers, and heads of trading to get their views on the adoption of alternative data. This report was just released today, and Edward is here to share those findings with us. Thank you, as always, for joining us at MarketSite. And why is there such an interest with alternative data traders these days?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, one of the goals of the report was to find out how are people using it, why are they adopting alternative data. Alternative data is anything outside of that traditional data stack, so outside of pricing, earnings, economic data, fundamental company data. It could be credit card information, it could be satellite data. At Dataminr, we do alerts on social media and other publicly available data. There's a real value to alternative data. There's a real, additional level of information it gives people, gives market participants to really understand more about what's going on, what's impacting the market, and how they can invest a little bit more effectively. In our report, 79% of our respondents said that they are currently incorporating alternative data into their existing process. Of those who said that they're not currently using it, a large majority, over 80%, said that they plan to in the next 6 to 12 months. So it's really interesting because the big headline here is that over 90% of our respondents are either using it or currently or planning to use it in the next year, which is a real increase over the last year. And I think it really kind of drives home the point that if you're not planning to already using alternative data, you're really behind the curve.
You're always looking for ways to generate alpha.
Absolutely.
Well, let's take a look at some of those cases. How are traders using alternative data?
So not surprisingly, one of the main uses for alternative data is to drive more informed trading decisions, to drive alpha. Another thing that we've really seen, and it's been really on an equal level as far as a use case, is to have situational awareness of what's going on in the markets and around the world. As events occur, to have a real-time input and to be able to watch that event or those events as they're happening. Another case that we've had is kind of a direct input into an investment thesis. So not necessarily a real-time trading decision, but much more of a longer-term view of how can I add this data and give me a better picture of where I think my thesis will go in the future. And it's really been interesting watching as well the level of trust in a wider variety of alternative data sources than market participants have typically been used to historically with alt data.
What are some of the challenges that investors face when they're consuming real-time data like alternative?
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest question, and traders are challenged, market participants are challenged by consuming real-time data just to understand what they're getting. Can they trust the source? Is that information useful? In the survey, one of the main challenges cited was the lack of workflow integration. So if you think about traders or other market participants, there are multiple screens with many feeds of information. All of it is critical. And if you're going to add a piece of data to your workflow, it needs to fit into what you're currently using and how you're currently set up. And so that's really important. And I think another challenge is just the amount of data that's out there and trying to figure out what is the right source, what works for me. We at Dataminr try to give our clients a number of ways to incorporate the data into their system to make it a seamless integration into their workflow. And that's one way that can make it a lot more effective. And I think one final thought around alternative data for people to really think about is, really think about what your goal is and then find the data set that's appropriate for the goal. It's not a one-size-fits-all. There's a lot of different sources out there. Find the thing that works the best for you given your particular thesis or point of view, and that'll really help you drive the results you're looking for.
It sounds like it's easy to generate data, but in terms of consuming it and how to most effectively use it is the challenge that you're seeing with traders.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, there's a lot out there, and it's all of it can be useful, but not necessarily all useful at one time. And picking the right source is really the most important thing.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us at
Thank
MarketSite, and thank you for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.